Agu. 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 We are here once again for our weekly Thursday IAS, illustrious IAS seminar series. And we are very happy to have our friend of IAS, Kofi Akpabli, who is here to present on Ghana Kasacartography. Now you may be wondering to yourself, what is Kasacartography? But that's why you're here to find out. But in the meantime, we have our very own Dr. Mrs. Mercy Akrofi, Ansah, who is here to chair, and I will give you a little bit of her background, that she holds a PhD in linguistics from the University of Manchester. She also has an MPhil degree in linguistics from the University of Ghana. She deals with language description and documentation, grammar of less studied languages, and we felt like she would be the perfect person to chair today's talk, which is going to be dealing with less documented languages in the sense of terms that we don't hear about so often in terms of analysis, but we will hear a lot about them in terms of how these terms define the national discourse. So without any further ado, I will turn it over to our honorable, praiseworthy, and illustrious chair, Dr. Mrs. Mercy Akrofi.
Thank you very much. To begin with, let me tell you a bit about our presenter for today. Mr. Kofi Akpabli is an author, teacher, and literary journalist whose special interests are a triangle between tourism, culture, and environment. In June 2011 in South Africa, Kofi Akpabli was voted CNN Multi-Choice African Journalist for Arts and Culture. In Uganda the previous year, he had won the same category, making him the only African to have annexed the CNN awards back-to-back. Kofi started writing in 1991 when a historical play he wrote captured first prize in a national playwriting contest. The drama, The Prince and the Slave, has subsequently run at the Arts Center in Accra, Kumasi, and at the Cape Coast Castle. He has authored 4 books, tackling the Ghanaian encounters with contemporary culture, Hamatan, a cultural profile of northern Ghana, Romancing Ghana Land, the Beauty of 10 Regions, and A Sense of Savannah Tales of a Friendly Walk Through Northern Ghana. Kofi Akpabli holds an MPhil in Tourism and an MA in Communication Studies from the School of Communication Studies, University of Ghana. His areas of research are language use across various domains, tourism, marketing, and intercultural communication. He writes a travel column, Going Places, in the Mirror newspaper. In addition to English, he speaks French, Hausa, Twi, Ewe, Ga, and a little Kasem. He is a lecturer of communication studies at the Central University College. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst this morning Mr. Kofi Akpabli to tell us what he has been researching so far on the topic Ghana Kasacartography, exploring how terms define time. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and I warmly welcome you to my presentation, which is based on our Ghanaian world of words. My topic again is Ghana Kasacartography. Now don't be scared of that big word, I'll explain in a minute. Exploring how terms define times in national discourse. I proceed on this presentation by first of all looking at what I call my motivation moment. And then I'll go on to talk about the purpose and significance the methodology, I'll share the categorization, and then finally, I'll also share the preliminary findings. I believe that after this engagement, I would receive some ideas and information to improve the work. At this juncture, I would like to play what I call my moment of motivation for this work.
The economy, I don't know, they were doing it politics, which it shouldn't be. Do you know? So now it seems like, I don't know, the thing can go, then it will come down. So now, please, I don't know.
Personally, how are your finances? Are your finances?
Me, assuming the way I'm with you right now, I will not even sit down for Ghanaian economy to didn't allow me to give birth. Because I follow like 9 bomb or 10 bomb. Yes.
Regardless of the state of the economy, regardless of the money, you still procreate.
I see, if I have to give birth, I have to give birth.
How many children do you have now?
I have 5 children.
You are hoping to get
But I'm jobless. I have 5 children. But still, you know, with God, all things are possible.
Why are you taking care of those 5 children?
Yes, you ask a question. How do I take care of 5 of them? Yes, you know. You know, kpa-kpa-kpa. Yes, kpa-kpa-kpa. But it's a movement. If you move, you pass here, you pass here, you pass here, kpa-kpa-kpa-kpa-kpa.
Okay. So, I'm sure some of you have also watched this before, enjoyed, and then on TV3. I heard this and I started asking questions. These terms that we conjure up once in a while, what do they really mean? How different have they been, for instance, under various dispensations? Do we always treat them same way as we treat other words under specific regimes, for instance? So I started looking for other terms or jargons or catchphrases, whatever you call them. Some are actually even proverbs. And within a matter of weeks, I had so many that I thought if I should make a critical meaning, then I must start pigeonholing them within certain domains. Incidentally, that was just about the same time that Dr. Kabon here was advertising some slots for this seminar. So I felt, why not? Let me put in an appearance. So I got to work and I got this title, and the title speaks about the times. Now, in Ghana, traditionally and even within contemporary society, we usually like to place events within regimes, as during traditional areas where you have chiefs. Within our governmental rule, you also have people ascribing the passage of events to specific regimes. So, for instance, someone will say, this young person was born during the reign of Busia, or this event happened when Nkrumah was toppled. So I thought I should then look at words that specifically related to regimes, words that were emblematic. So when you mention it, everybody knows that this word is related to regime X or regime Y. That's how I started. At this stage, I would like to explain that there are various forms. Some are actually local words. Some are local words. Some are English, some are hybrids, some are new words that have been formed. So I decided to use the word 10 for all of these. And then Kasa, like some of us would know, is account for speech, talk, or discourse. And cartography is just about a map. So this whole idea is to be able to figure out an outline of words across the socio-political history of Ghana. And then the times I use here, I would like to explain them to mean the duration of a government in power. And then I also define national discourse for the purpose of this. Now I must also explain that some of the words are actually the chorus of songs, as we will experience in a minute. Thank you very much. So the chorus of that song says Ethiopia means will not listen to anyone, will not take heed of what is being said. And under the current dispensation, we all know what that means. So some of the examples we will see are like that. Now I begin. Seek ye first the political kingdom of Ghana. That was how Nkrumah used a biblical allusion to express a position. Since then, we've had this in various forms. Now, this has been the subject for many academic endeavors. And DACU 2003, for instance, advances that Ghanaian society is essentially multilingual and heterogeneous. And because of that, you are going to have a variety of speech forms that exist or can be identified. Bianca also stated that speech, rhetorics, terms, words are used especially by the political establishment for political expediency. And then also, Hastie was of the view that the act, the facility, the proficiency one has over a language itself is a status symbol in society. I decided to look at this study from a communication perspective. So I was going to analyze these terms across political regimes and see how they play out in various discourses. Now, in a paper entitled Dufiasem, which was a fallout of a statement made by the former late President Mills, which was essentially a foreign policy statement of a sort. Yanka said that it's the fact that we are able to set aside the subject matter of speech, the way we handle our discourse. That fact alone shows that as Ghanaians, we see it as a value. Now, the Ghanaian language scape is a rather vibrant one. We have English, but as various studies have shown, the Englishes we have are also of various distinctions. I remember Hubert Magnum, he did something, for instance, on Ghanaian Pidgin English as a distinct. So this is also the same time we had Hubondog and Unprecedented, all and all and all. Now, home. We are home now. So we have Chia, Amaya Koroko, Baby Sushanti, Bosheba, Naili Ametefe, which is an allusion to a cocaine scandal that took place late last year. And then our boys Abre, and then Judgment Dead. Judgment Dead, I must say, according to what I found, had been in existence prior to Mahama, but during his term, the term assumed a more prominent dimension. So it found its place here. So these are the pictures emerging. There were a total of 148 terms across the various regimes. And out of those, English language, words that were of English language, were 110, and then local 53, and then hybrid were 5. Now the hybrid are two words joined together, so that takes care of how they stand with respect to the languages. Now I also looked at terms related to popular culture. This is where you have words that were related to the establishment and then eventually used as a song, such as I don't want to use the Ethiopia. There's another voice Abre. So that's one. And then there were also, like I said earlier, songs that already existed, but an event happens within the political space, and then that song gets a new meaning, such as Ebitiye by Nana Pidu, for instance. So there were 19 of such. And for such, in this category, I also considered fashion, which for me is part of popular culture. So you'll find that the term Fatia Fatankruma, which was in the First Republic, also found its way here because people were so enamored with the marriage between the first head of state and then his Egyptian wife that they said Fatia Fatankruma. Fatia is befitting of Nkrumah, and it got into a special kente design. So it also found its way here. Now you have the new words, neologisms, and we only have 3 of those. And then terms inspired by foreign events. Now this is where you find words such as Apollo, because in 69 man had just landed on the moon. So that word became popular, and I couldn't establish, for instance, whether the landmark at Circle, Apollo Theatre, was as a result of that. I'm still searching that. But there was an eye infection during the time, 69. I was told that was called Apollo 11, which was a reflection of that event. And then, of course, the Apollo 658, which was the dismissal of public servants and civil servants from work, was referred to as Apollo. And then I also added words which were in English, but which for me had international connotations at the time. So comrade, for instance, found its way here because comrade was part of the communist socialism establishment at the time, and the Cold War was at its height. And since it is known that the First Republic aligned to those leanings, the term comrade became a special and a popular term. I also added a luta continua here because the 70s, late 70s, we also had Revolution, Che Guevara and the others also using that term from Latin America. So this is how the categories were played out. Now, I looked at words that could lay interpretation to aggression, for instance. So you would have here, we know we sit down. That's quite aggressive. You would have landguard. You would have a word like who-born dog. That's combative. So there were, 30 of these words, and then I did a cross tab and I realized that throughout the regimes, 15 of such words were found within the military, and then within the constitutional era, we also have 15 of them. So an example would be foot soldier. Foot soldier is actually a word that became popular within constitutional era. And then I tried to see persuasive words. So a term like my brothers and sisters found its place here. Then we go to gender. Now, the gender-related terms, here you find kayayu. You would also find fautubeji. You will find excuse me, let me just outmove. Let's go on. If it comes, I'll mention it. If you look at courtesy for boys and girls, for example, that has gender connotation, and that's fair. Okay, that's an equality of a sort. That term does not put one gender down, such as much as my brothers and sisters. You have gender there, but they are on the same level. When you take Fatia Patankruma, which also falls into this category, it's on the same level. But if you take a Kania, a high, that's one gender being put down. So in all, I had 15 gender-related terms, and 7 were quite unfriendly. Preliminary conclusions, because like I said earlier, some aspects of this work require further work, as in structured interview, which I haven't done yet. But for me, you could find that there wasn't much difference between the Ghanaian of today or the Ghanaian of the military times or the Ghanaian of newly independent Ghana. Words were used euphemistically, they were used antagonistically. They were used for humor. They also show the creativity of the Ghanaian. And some of the values we saw, what happened in military was the same that was happening in constitutional era. On that note, I see my time is up. I'd like to thank you for your attention and then hand the mic over to the chair person.
Thank you very much for finishing on time. And so it's now time for questions, suggestions, comments from the floor. We'll take 3 at a go, and then we'll give Mr. Akpabli the opportunity to respond to them. Give your eye-based tags. Okay, I observed that out of the 148 terms that you have discovered, there are, several of them are Akan. Okay, those that are non-English, several of them are in Akan. I noticed that there were only 2 which were non-Akan and non-English. For example, the Ewe, Amegahuho. And then you also had one Ga phrase, Mukwayani Muko-apa. Okay. And does that tell us any story? How come most of them are in Akan? Does it mean that the non-Akan speakers were also using these terms, or the terms were confined to only Akan speakers?
No.
You can notice, okay. And then we'll come back.
Thank you very much. I thought that the basis for dismissing the word Liman and Achampo, why it may apply to Liman because even that machete is completely out of fashion. But Achampo is there. You go to the countryside, it's so well known, and that's how it is called and known by today. So I think you may have to reconsider. There is another word that Rawlings made so popular, conscientize. I'm not too sure that word existed. He actually created it, and it's part of our vocabulary now. It's completely missing in your, and we're using it as if it were. So anyway, those are suggestions. Thank you very much.
Kofi Akpabli for your very interesting presentation. I have 2 main questions. First of all, I realized that out of the 148 terms, we had 110 being English-based. So my question is that to what extent does Kasacartography inform our understanding of how it's either a representation of corruption in quotes or creativity also in quotes within Ghana's social, political, and linguistic discourse, and especially the response from researchers like yourself to that particular categorization, that is either a corruption or some kind of creativity. And secondly, I would like to touch on what I consider unconventional sources, looking at your approach to get sources. We talk mainly of interviews and so on and so forth. But then we are walking through a historical timeline. So there might be events out of which we might have had certain words or certain terms emerging. So how, or I think you should also consider looking at architecture or photographs that might become memory aids for people to actually remember certain events that they might have forgotten as a result of the mind not basically being 100% reliable. Thank you very much.
Following up on the last speaker's question, mine is also a methodological question, and I'm wondering if you could, I'm requesting you to give us a little bit more detail on your criteria. How did you select? Because as we heard from the previous questioners, we might have come up with different words. some words might be more popular, more common in the lexicon of certain age groups. So I'm sure if you speak to somebody like me, who went to university in the revolutionary years, there are some other terms that myself and my peers would throw out there. So how could you make it, I know it would be impossible to make it completely subjective, how could you make it more perhaps representative of the quote-unquote popularity of different terms?
Okay, I think we would allow Mr. Akpabli to respond.
I'll start from the last question. Yeah, the choice of words was very important for me. So, for instance, I decided that it should be reflective of the times. If you have a regime that is 10 years, you should know that you are likely to get more words than the regime that's as brief as 3 months. That's the assumption. But when I started, so that informed my deciding to give each regime a maximum of 10, a maximum of 20. So other regimes are not crowded out. That's one. Now, when you take a word and you bounce it off someone of 40, 50 years of age, and that person is able to respond positively to that word, and then you use the same word on a school girl or a school boy, and that person still remembers that, oh, this word is a reflection of those times, then it gives you an idea of the popularity of that word. Now, I also considered the mass media. I looked at the press, for instance. How many of these words appeared within which days? So you realize that in the 70s, a lot of these words were there. Although the regime itself, I'm talking about the Rawlings 79, although the regime itself was brief, the words were all over. So I would say that is the safeguard I applied to ensure that the words we have are not skewed towards a particular age or a particular group of people. But I must admit that there was a bias towards the urban space. There was a bias towards the urban space, and naturally, that is where a lot of that's the political hotbed anyway. And then I would say the media, the newspapers. So if the word is in the newspaper within that time or a couple of times, then I know that it is popular enough to be considered into the categories. The other question has to do with architecture. Architecture that reflects the ages, the words that we use. That's the second part of your question. Yes, I'll note that, and that reminds me, for instance, of the statue, the broken statue of Kwame Nkrumah, right? Good. Your first question. Yes, if you can tell, because I can't remember your first question.
Yes. I asked them.
Okay, to what extent these words express the corruption or the creativity of the Ghanaian? Well, they are what they are. The words are what they are. These are the words that were in play, were in force during these various times. So for me, as a researcher, it just paints a picture of who we are and what we use as expressions to negotiate these various times. So they are what they are. The question with regards to a champon as a weed. Okay, I'll look at that. I'll look at that. And then the liman. You want the liman to be where it is. Very few people knew the liman. Very, very few people. But the champon, those who have had experiences in farming communities, know odorata. They know it. There was one more question. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Most of the terms are of Akan origin.
Yeah.
So does it mean that those terms were used by only Akan speakers?
Not at all.
Not
at all. Not at all. Like I said, these words were tested on people of different ethnic backgrounds, different educational backgrounds. So the person might not be able to even say the word properly, but the person responds to the word. The person can tell you, okay, this happened during a free-fat time. This is how they say it, and this is what it means. The literature shows that more than half of Ghanaians speak Akan. That's the literature I got. So I wasn't surprised with this result. And if you look at Karidapo's Ghanamanism, she also got a result which was quite similar.
Thank you very much. Shall we have the next set of questions, comments? Okay, so Dr. Kambon, Prof. Gordon, and then Professor.
Okay, thank you for a very interesting presentation, especially as a linguist. You know, I'm here on the front row. In terms of some of the things that were brought up previously in terms of methodology, I would like to recommend focus groups that I think as you have old people sitting around reminiscing, that they will start to jog each other's memories and that things will, start to come out that you may not have looked at before. I was also thinking about representativeness in terms of demographic distribution. So if you look at the amount of young people in the society, then that can inform how many young people would be part of your study versus old people. That's just a suggestion. Also, a suggestion in terms of the spelling of your chi. Some of your chi words.
I should have given
please, please take it to someone who is extremely good. That's just a personal thing of mine.
No, you're right. I should have added a caveat. I tend to write local sounds as they sound. I do that for the benefit of the non-indigenous speaker. Yeah, so I should have added a caveat. So, thank you.
Well, thank you very, very kindly again for your presentation. I've got a couple of issues here. First, your term neologism. Your implication is a new term or a new word. And usually it may have a new term, but might have an old root to the term. So you may want to go back to some of the phrases as aluta continua, which has been in use for a long time before, and how does that translate into the Ghanaian lingo. And also aparo. I mean, you have to give us the location of how that came about and whether that implies the same way in Ghana. Also, you were talking about terms that were unfriendly to gender, and it was pretty vague. I did not catch what aspect of gender you're talking about. Man, woman, intersex, bisex, what does that mean? You were not clear. And lastly, I think if I can get that straight, maybe again it's an issue of methodology. You mentioned age and words, and again the age ranges were very vague. If you can be very, very specific as a link to the periods you're talking about. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you for your presentation. It's very exciting.
Thank you.
I like it so much because I'm also doing research on African presidential leadership across the continent. There are 300. I wish I can do this for every one of them. I'd like to invite my group. We've had a lot of good comments and suggestions. It is research in progress, and you accepted that. Abundantly, I'm the director of the development company that I wanted to make. That methodology is very critical. And I know you aren't going to feel, I think you get advice from this suggestion that the focus groups to reflect on that period. My other comment is a simple one. I'm really not sure what you want to do with this data. After collecting all of this, so what? After you have seen all these things you're talking about, the different regimes, the question is, so what? Are you trying to address the issue of pluralization in geography in non-Western world? Or what are you trying to do with this information when you finish? What are the implications of your study? What is the significance of this study? I like it, it's exciting. But I just wonder, where do you want to end up?
Thank you. I'll begin with the last question. When this work is done, it will tell us the different ways in which Ghanaians have negotiated their realities in terms of words, in terms of jargons. And it also allows us to know whether these approaches have changed over the years. There is no literature, there is no research that has looked at words and terms and jargons across the regimes. The other one has to do with, yes, the age differences. I'll take note of that. Now, the question about gender, if I may use an example, if you know the meaning of these were the days where, in the heat of the 79 coup, where women who were supposed to have committed economic crimes were exposed publicly, their private parts. So for me, it's unfavorable to that gender. Now, again, when you take Kayayu, the Kayayu is the girl who comes from the north mainly and is carrying stuff, and their whole existence and what goes on around the concept of the Kayayu, that again is a minus for the female gender. So that's what I mean by unfavorable.
Shall we have the last set of questions, perhaps? The last set, okay. And then, any more?
Yes, thank you very much. I think during Rawlings' time, there are words which I'm sure you did not mention. There were thousands of them, something like Weshiaunian, when somebody is wearing the same thing, tie and dye and things like that. Yes, Yankee and so on. Basically, people that were deterred, they were not allowed to do this thing, they were not supposed to say these things in order to incite violence. So people, in order to escape prison terms or things like that, they use those words, they hide behind it, so that they can actually say those words publicly. And 99% of them came from the Ashanti or the Akan traders. That is why they were using most of the words came from the Akan background. So I'm sure, positively sure, that is why they were trying to escape punishment by whatever means, but to say or to speak their mind. So I think that is what I think it is.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I've noted that when you look at the category for the era you just mentioned, I have gone over the 20 allotted. So I have to re-examine it. I have gone over 20. So I thought I had again a few others. In fact, I have loads, except that I decided that if I have to make better meaning of this, then I have to restrict them within a certain domain. That's why I chose the regimes, because you can go on and on. There is Falewote, there is Tokyo Joe, there is Bobista. All these things are out there, and they help us to make meaning. So I've noted that.
I had a quick question in terms of gender. There's a term that I've heard for a few years, kojobesia, for a homosexual male, and this is following up on the gender. Would you see that, one, as a neologism, and then two, would you see that as being unfavorable to gender as you've termed it, and how would you mean that?
Thank you. I will look at it in terms of, is it derogatory? Now, if it's derogatory, then it is unfavorable to gender in general. But it sounds derogatory for me.
Would you associate that with a particular regime?
No, some of the words, you can't link them to regimes. You can't link, they've always been there. But when they become popular within a regime, then they get into my entry. For instance, Galamsey.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that all of us have been educated. Indeed, these terms define the times. Because for most of us who were born before after independence and all that, and those who were born in after the 1980s, early 1980s, don't have any idea whatsoever most of the terms. But today we have learned them. Now I want to comment briefly on for Gordon's comment or suggestion or question that with all these terms, what are you going to do with them? And I think that putting all these terms together, one could tell a beautiful story about socio-economic post-independence development or whatever, because we can learn so much from these terms. So maybe I would encourage you to really go on to look for more, and then maybe write a paper that tells the story of Ghana's post-independence economic whatever. And I think that the youth and everybody else will learn a lot from that. Thank you very much, Mr.
Show you a book.
If it becomes a book, I'll help edit for the 2 terms. All right, so I want to thank everyone for coming out. This is a very excellent turnout, so give yourselves a big round of applause. And next week we have Professor Larry Yarak dealing with history and popular memory in Elmina, dealing with who owns that history. He's actually here, present today, so it should be a very interesting talk as well. And again, please tell your friends, television, telephone, tell an African, and we look forward to seeing you here next week.